Hi there, and welcome to How To with Ann Malum. When deciding to do this podcast, I really wanted to create something that could give people real tools on how to execute on certain things. So often we talk about things on such a macro scale that, yes, leaves people inspired, but with no real idea on what the steps are to make something in their own life happen. I challenge and encourage and probe my amazing guests to get granular and specific on their strategies, their mindset, their tactics, and their methodologies so that you can learn practical, actionable steps to best optimize your confidence, career, health, and wealth. What is up, everybody? I am Ann Malum, and welcome to the podcast. I have one goal here, and it is to help you achieve ultimate optimization in your career, your health, and your wealth. Every guest I bring on has a proven track record of success in these areas, and we're going to share specific, actionable items that you can use to optimize your own life. Today, we are thrilled to have Dr. Ish Major here. He is a relationship expert, a psychiatrist, a TV host, and a media personality. He is a highly sought-after relationship consultant, board-certified psychiatrist, and host of the hit show X-Isle on WeTV. He has spent the last 10 years demystifying the male psyche and knows everything from the telltale signs that men show when they lie to key moments that define any and all relationships. He believes that only by being clear about who you are and what you want can you have a real chance at finding true love, happiness, and the partner that you deserve. Dr. Ish, so nice to have you here.
And it is a pleasure. I've heard so many great things. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you know, I after just even reading your bio out loud, it's when you say, oh, be yourself, everybody would probably agree with that and say that. Why is that so hard for us to do?
Because if I'm myself, right, and I show you who I am, but you don't like it, then that's all I got.
So it's the rejection piece of we want to be who we think you want us to be, so that we'll feel needed and wanted by you.
I want to be who you want me to be because I want you to like me.
Yeah.
Because humans, we run on love and connection, and so right, and so that's what we're always looking for in every interaction. And so I want to morph into the person I think that's going to help me achieve that.
And how long do you think, Dr. Ish, till the real person comes out? If you're putting on a front, and I would imagine some people don't even know that they're doing it. You know, when did the true signs start to show, and what happens when that happens?
So if we're talking a casual relationship, usually about 90 days. If we're talking about a dating romantic relationship where we're actually going on dates, usually somewhere halfway between that third date, but sometime after that. Yeah. That's when the real person starts to kind of poke their head over the pail, and you start to see, okay, got it. Yeah.
And then what happens? Do people start to get clear? Like, how many of those relationships at that point then, you know, are like, oh, I don't like what I see, and they end? Or do people start do you see people accepting that person? What happens then?
You know what? The success rate for that is about 50-50, same as the divorce rate.
Right.
Which makes sense. So half the time you're going to absolutely love what you say. It's like, yes, that's my person. I'm all in on that. Thank you for showing me. And then half the time you're going to say, yeah, probably not so much. Not so much, right? If where you are in your process is able to make those decisions quickly, right? But if you're the person who's out there just kind of fumbling about, mistaking having somebody to just help you not feel lonely versus having somebody to fall in love with, right? Well, then you're going to be on the other side, and you're just going to take whatever they show you because you just don't want to be lonely.
Amazing. That's just, it's super interesting how, we put our best foot forward, and how we have to learn to do that through relationships. And I'm sure we have to go through that several times to see when I have shown this person who I am, or I've seen who somebody else is, I don't like it. So do people learn to start to show up as their true selves from the very get-go?
So I think it gets to the point where, Anne, what I have found is that the thing that helps people show up is when they get tired of being somebody else, right? When you're, let's say you're in a relationship, for example, or you're a serial dater, right? And you're attractive and you're successful and you're all these things, but you never really show up as who you are, right? And so You go through and this people connect with you, right? But the morning after and the weeks and the months after, you just kind of feel empty, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not really you they're connecting with. And when people get tired of that feeling, hey, I'm showing up, I'm doing the thing, we're having some fun, I guess, but for whatever reason, I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel, right? I don't feel joyful as I think I should be. And then it kind of clicks. Oh, because the person who they're signing off on, the person who they're saying yes to, that really isn't all me because I haven't showed them all me, right? So I like to think of it as, why are you walking into the room, right? Am I walking into the room with you because I want you to accept me, right? Or am I walking into the room with you because I want to be seen by you? Those are two very different approaches. And when you can start thinking about it like that, then you can start showing up as more yourself.
Yeah, can you get more specific with me? What when we say that we're not showing up as ourselves, what are some of the key things you see people do? Do they is it their mannerisms? Is it how they dress? Is it what they talk about that they do in their spare time that they really don't do? What is it?
So it's everything, right? It's all of those things and more, because it's happening on a cellular level and you don't really know it. So imagine you're in a room and you in this room and the thing that you want the most is acceptance, right? Because you're looking for love and you're looking for possible connection. So I need this person to accept me. So there are some things I'm not going to talk about because we may not agree. I don't want that disagreement. There are some views I am not going to espouse, whether it's on religion or marriage or right or different genders of people, because I don't know. I may not like that. So we must say, you know what? Oh, I think Anne maybe likes this. So let me wear this shirt with these pants, with these shoes. Maybe she'll like that. Right? I can get into it. It's totally fine, right? And all these mannerisms, right? All the body language, you're gonna morph into the thing that Anne wants because you want Anne to accept you, right? And at the end of the day, that's my goal. Now the problem is, let's say the thing goes well and we do kick it off and we do connect, but at the end of it, I'm not totally happy, Anne, because the person you're saying yes to wasn't really me, right? It was who I thought you needed me to be, right? So all of everything changed. I'm not even gonna tell you what I want, right? Because it may not be the thing you want, and I don't want to be rejected again tonight. I don't want that, right?
And so, sorry, I thought you were done. Keep going.
No, keep going. Go ahead.
I think there as I think, and like, when have I done that? And of course I've done it in the past, but you almost would build a resentment because you feel like I tried to be everything I thought you wanted, and I resent you for not accepting me in that way. Like, you putting in so much effort.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Dare you?
What?
Right? And the resentment. So that resentment is going to ping back and forth from you. And now I'm actually going to resent me a little bit because I know I didn't show all the way up again, right? Versus if I'm on the room and my goal is just for you to see it, right? My goal now, I just want you to see it, and then you can give some information. I'm going to give you all the information you need. And now you can decide on an informed decision whether I'm your person or not, right? And I'm going to walk into the room. I'm going to pirouette. I'm going to get twirl. I'm going to right, and I'm going to let you see all of it. And then you just decide. And so when I leave that room, regardless of whether you accept me or not, whether you're liking me or not, whether we made a connection or not, I can feel good about leaving that room because I did my job, and my job was simply to let you see all of it. That was done. I'm good for the rest of the evening, right?
Well, so I'm going to share a little bit about my relationship because I have a question to follow up with that, but I want to see. So I'm long distance with my boyfriend. We met 4 months ago in person. We had been working together, frankly, for a month. So we'd had some Zoom calls, and I sort of got to know him and see him that way. But because we have been long distance, when we are together, we are together. We're in essence living together. He lives in San Diego. I live in New York. Our first weekend together was in Los Angeles, where we spent the whole weekend together, and then another weekend. And I feel we quickly got to see who each other were, because when you're together that much time, one, if you're hiding who you are, it's sort of like keeping up with a lie. Like, oh my gosh, did I do this thing? And like, oh, I said that I do this, but I actually don't work out in the morning. How do I get away with that for the next 6 days?
Right.
So I'm wondering if you think there's something to that, of how you get people to accelerate in environments. Because if you're just doing the dating game and you're going out to dinner and doing these things, but you're hiding your daily routine, and you're hiding that you actually do watch 3 hours of Netflix a night when you say you don't watch TV. Like, what do you think of that? The acceleration of the relationship in that manner?
Well, I think number one, you've got to be ready for the truth, right? Because that's true. And I think number two, the thing that you guys accelerated was the behavioral observation, right?
Right.
You can't tell who I am by what comes out of my mouth. It's just whatever.
Right.
It's just words. Some of those words are true. Some of those words aren't very accurate, right? It's it's that thing. But when we get to know each other, right? That's why there's that old saying: you never know a person until you live with them. Right? Because now I can see your behavior from sun up to sundown, and I see who you are, right? And so that usually takes time, right? It takes time for us to get to the point in a relationship where we go away for a weekend together, or we're doing the overnight things together.
Right.
You guys accelerated because you're long distance. Hey, I'm coming into town. I'm staying with you this weekend. This is what we're doing. Boom. So you get to see all of it pretty quickly, and it's just hard to hide who you are 24/7. And so that's a cool thing if you're ready for the truth.
Yeah. If you're ready for the truth, but if the truth always prevails and always come out, we're prolonging the inevitable. So it's like maybe the trick is like people should just move in together within the first month and see what, and that way you would cut out all of the potential. Like, I wasted a year of my life because I found out who he was then. You know, maybe there's something here. We can create a business where we rent an apartment complex, we move people in together, and help people find love faster.
And help them find love faster because you get to the truth so much faster, right?
Right.
You really do. But the problem is with us is we've had so much rejection, so much disappointment before we get there that most of us don't really want to know that fast, right? Because what I don't want to do, and you've heard people say this over and over again, hey, I don't want to get back out there and start all over again because it's exhausting, right? And so most folks would rather limp it along and find the truth out gradually over the next 9, 12 months, 1, 3, 6 years. And then, right, because a little bit of what I want when it comes to relationships, the way we think is a little bit of what I want or some of what I want beats none of what I want. I just don't want to be lonely.
Yeah, and we can accept comfort and familiarity over uncertainty. And like, will I find somebody? What if I don't find somebody better? This is better than nobody. Yeah, I want one of the...
Right.
One of the quotes I wrote down, and I don't know if it was Oprah who said it or Gayle King who said it by way of Oprah, but I love it when it says, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Gotta
believe them. You know?
And for this situation in particular, we are, as humans, we are really, really excellent at sacrificing what we want and settling for what we need in the moment, right? So what I really want is love and connection because I want to belong to something larger than me, right? This relationship and possibly this family. I want to feel like I belong to this thing. But what I really need today, Monday at 10 p.m., is just not feel lonely, right?
Right.
So you're here, and so I guess let's do it.
I mean, I feel like I have so many questions and things to share. And I want let me, if it's okay, can I ask, are you currently in a relationship, Dr. Ish?
Yes.
Okay. How long has you been in that relationship?
Oh gosh, coming up on 8 years now.
8 years. Okay. And how many relationships have you been in over the course of your life?
Oh my God. Many.
Me too.
Many.
And so what is it that after doing all of that work, and again, we're going to get into a lot of how-tos here, guys, so bear with us, but it always is good to have context. Off of all of those things that you've learned, you know, when you think about why things are working with this particular person you're in a relationship with right now for 8 years, what is it about this relationship and things you guys do on a daily, weekly, whatever basis that makes things work?
I think we're intentional about listening to each other, which helps tons. We're intentional about that check-in time, which helps tons. I think the thing to me that helped us the best was we're also intentional about allowing each other their space to grow, right? Because you've got to do that, right? The relationship thing, that's the adventure, right? An adventure is something you share with other people, you share with someone else. But then within that adventure, we're all on our individual journey, right? Whether it's that healing journey, it's that growth journey, it's that growth, that journey to achieve, that's an individual thing that people are privy to, who you love and who you bring into your circle. But the thing that you're sharing together is just that adventure. And within that adventure, you've got to know when it's time for that person to do their thing. That doesn't involve you. It doesn't include you. And it's just, and you can't take those things personal. So I think the thing that helps us is we learn how not to take each other's individual moments very personally.
And I think that's hard for couples too, because that can also be a form of rejection, or people feel so scared that you're going to grow without me, outgrow me. That way I need to keep you here, or whatever you're doing, I need to be a part of.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's simply not true, right? Just because I'm in a relationship with you doesn't mean I don't get to still be a whole other person, right? I'm still a person, right? I'm still me. And then we're sharing parts of our journey together, right? And that's what makes it cool. That's what makes it juicy, right? That's what makes it an adventure. Because there's always going to be new things. The thing that gets most couples into trouble is they forget to download each other with a new update. Like your iPhone, every now and then, you get that update, you get that little red dot. Hey, right? We got an update.
Yeah.
In relationships, we forget to download. We forget to give each other the download. Hey, that thing you used to do that I thought was so adorable? Yeah, I don't think it's adorable anymore. Here's what I like right now.
Right.
The thing that I used to be into, like this cool thing here, you know what? Not really into it anymore. But let me show you what else I'm into. We don't like to do the new updates because we think that since I've somehow changed, then my person may not like the change, and that may sever the connection. And I don't want that. So I'll just kind of stay the same and move forward.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Ish, one of the things that I have found in my past, there's two things. One, you must be a big proponent of therapy and people really learning about themselves based on your background and who you are.
Yes.
And I always tell people, I would never be in any kind of relationship with anybody who thinks therapy they're gonna roll their eyes at therapy or hasn't done that work to understand who they are, their parents, their family dynamic, their attachment style, all of those things. And I go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I did that work late. And one of the things I had to accept, I did the work late because I never had my heart broken until I was 35, 37 years old. And so I didn't have a reason to do the work. When I was done with the relationship, it was like, well, I'm moving on. He's just not right for me. And again, there was no pain there. But what I had learned about myself and relationships and the way that I was showing up, I was causing a lot of fights. I put conflict into my relationships because that's what I saw my parents do. And what I learned from my mother, an emotional inheritance that I didn't pick up on until late in life, that I didn't apologize. I wasn't apologizing. I always made it the other person's fault. And I did that to try to get the power. And these things are not like great things to say about myself. But if I wasn't willing to admit them out loud, figure out why I do that, and work toward not doing that. And frankly, I've even shared that with my partners I used to have this really bad habit. So if you catch me doing this again, I'm asking you to hold me accountable. And we want to hide all of those things too, to make ourselves look super perfect. But the reality is we all have issues and we all have baggage. And it's our responsibility to sort that stuff out and ask, is this behavior serving me and the people that I love?
Right. And let me dive directly into therapy mode and reframe a couple of things for you. So number one, you didn't do it late. You did it exactly when you're supposed to.
Thank you.
Right? Whether that's 35, 55, 75, the growth process never ends.
Okay. Thank you for that. You're right.
Right. Number two, you weren't causing conflict. You were simply looking for connection in the way you were taught. Right? Because, because if I can't get the connection I want, I'll settle for the connection that's readily available, right? And so a lot of guys will come to me and they're like, listen, dude, I'm doing everything I possibly can, but she's always causing an argument and it just makes me want to run and detach. I was like, right, because what she's looking for is connection, right? And if she can't get the loving connection, the sweet, tender connection, then Then she'll take a more jagged connection, which is an argument, right? Just to draw you in and make you emote with her. So it's simply looking for the connection. That's all it is, right? And so yeah, we've got to allow ourselves some grace when it comes to our own journey and our own development, and why and how it is we go about to secure those things we need and want to help us feel whole.
Guys, you should, if you need to rewind that, or I'll say it again for you. I never put those two pieces together until now, that the reason that I was causing the conflict is because I wanted you to pay attention to me in a way that you weren't. And if I made you feel like you hurt me or I was upset, that's not a pleasant emotional state to be in. So then you'll engage with me to fix that.
Of course. I just want the engagement. Connect with me. And if I can't, and if I don't know how to get it the loving way, then I'll get it the way I know how, which may not be pleasant for either one of us, but at least it's something. I had a patient, Anne, who when I was early in my career, I was still a resident, and I had a patient, she was with me for over a year, and young woman in her mid-20s, graduated college, had her life together, had her own job, own car, own place, own money, the whole deal, right? Beautiful lady. And she would come in, I would see her on Mondays, and every Monday there was a new bruise, or there was a new thing going on with her because she was in an abusive relationship. And so one day, as we're kind of going through all the therapeutic motions, one day I asked her, I was like, your situation is so different from a lot of other women who are in abusive relationships when they've been isolated and they've been cut off from family and they aren't independent, right? One of the things that abusers do, they isolate you and they make you dependent. So they cut off your access to your support group, right? And if you don't have your own source of income where you can go out and leave and do things, right, like that, or escape. But she had all those things. I was like, he actually lives in your home, right? You could have him evicted. You have your family. You have your girlfriend. You have your support group. You have all of these things that I struggle to get women in abusive relationships to have. You have those things, but you're choosing not to do anything about it. And I was like, what? I wonder why that is. She was like, well, I thought about that. She was like, and I don't know how I would feel if he ever stopped hitting me, because as long as he's hitting me, at least I know he cares enough to connect with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm sure when she said that out loud, it's like, man, I can't believe that I'm accepting that, but it's the truth.
Right.
And
it wasn't the connection she wanted, but it was the one that was readily available, so she took it.
And it's the one she knew and was familiar with. Yeah.
Familiar with, right.
Yeah, and that's the stuff, Dr. Ish, of like, if you guys are listening, and this is true of all areas of our life, not just relationships. I used to throw up my food, and it was just that. I didn't have an identity outside of the woman who threw up her food. And that's all I knew. And I'm like, if I don't obsess and put all my time and energy into this, what will I think about? So it was like, at least I have this thing that like I can put energy, and I feel like I'm oddly being productive and sort of whatever. But we do that with relationships when we accept those different things, but admitting and saying them out loud, no matter how they sound, it gives them light. And that means that it gives them exposure, and you can start to dive in and have the conversation. But we hide all of that. We we make things sound so much better than they actually are. Yeah. And so we don't ever have to deal with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it's that old adage, we're only as sick as our secrets, right? And I like to say we're only as sick as our shame, right? It's the thing that I'm ashamed of, is the thing that I hide. And the only way to eradicate that is to shine a light on it. Shame grows in the dark.
Right. Shame, addiction. Yep.
Right. The more we put it in the closet, the bigger that monster gets. But as soon as you start to shine a light on it, you tell your best friend, right? You tell a family member, right? You find a good therapist or coach, and you talk to them about it. As soon as you start doing that, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. There's something magical about seeing that word bubble come out of your mouth. It's like, okay, there it is. Now I can get my arms around it and help understand it a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for all of us to do, because when we bring it out of the closet, we've got to deal with it, and we don't really know how or where it's going to go. And yeah, but when you can expose all of that stuff and you feel empowered and we understand our behaviors. Oh, that's why I was into that guy. That's why I accepted that. That's why I behaved that way.
Right.
It's so amazing.
Right. The light bulbs go off. You know what I mean? I don't, as opposed to a lot of therapists, I curse a lot in my sessions. I don't call them aha moments. I call them oh shit moments. It's like, oh shit. That's why I do that.
Yeah. And it's when you have clarity around that
Right.
stuff, it's like, this makes sense now. Like,
Right.
I'm not quote unquote crazy. I'm not weird. I'm not whatever.
Oh,
And yeah, all these behavioral things. But yeah, so
I've been
I
like that for 20 years. I have yet to see a crazy person, but I've seen
seriously.
I've seen a lot of people with a lot of childhood wounds who are walking around with a lot of pain, and were doing the best they could to get through the day.
Yeah, and it's funny as I talked about the apology thing now, that is a boundary for me. I do not let anybody in my life who does not know how to apologize. And I've had to, frankly, had 2 months since of not talking to my mother because of that. That is not something I'm willing to accept. When you mess up and you can't say I am sorry, instead it's I'm sorry you feel that way. Those weren't my intentions. Well, I had no choice. All of the, bounce arounds of the real apology, that's a boundary for me. I've done it to other people and I know the damage it's done, and I will not accept if I accept that person in my life and accept that behavior, I worry that I'm going to start doing it again to other people, and that I'm saying it's okay, and it's not okay. So I've turned it into a really big boundary for me.
That's a cool because what you accept will continue, and the way we do one thing is the way we do most things. And so you accept it in your familiar relationships, you'll accept it in your romantic relationships, and if you accept it in your romantic relationships, you accept it in your work relationships, right?
Yeah.
And you go 10 years and nobody will apologize to you.
Totally. And it's a big boundary of mine.
Right.
So, sorry. So, okay. So I want to get into a couple of these things here because these are fascinating. When, I told you this podcast, I want to leave people, and you've already, just even that tidbit that you talked about with conflict, I think is going to blow so many people's minds of like, that's why I want connection. And I didn't realize that. Right. So you have this rule. It's called the 18-second rule to deeper connection. Can you tell us about that?
So listen. I had the very, very fortunate incident of being trained by one of the most brilliant doctors in the world, Dr. Sean Stinson out of Duke University, and he was one of my instructors when I was in med school. And I was never the brightest med student, but I was the one who worked the hardest, right? And so you weren't going to outwork me. I was going to work to understand it harder than you, if it was more intuitive to you or not. And so one morning we're in there, we're doing morning rounds, and I'm interviewing the patient, trying to figure out what it is. We're in the hospital, and Dr. Shinson's just standing back, and he's looking. He was like, "Ish, let me talk to you for a second," right? He saw me floundering as usual. It's like, "Ish, come over here." He was like, "Listen," he was like, you know how it seems like I always know what's happening with my patients? Like, yeah, I didn't do that. He was like, I just shut up. He was like, if you walk into a room and you ask them what's wrong, and then you be quiet for the next 18 seconds, they will tell you exactly where it hurts. Because we think we know.
I'm smiling. I realize I'm on a podcast. You guys couldn't see me smiling, but like I was ear to ear when he said that.
Right? And because we're so uncomfortable with those awkward silences that we jump and we rush to fill the space. Whether it's in that situation, a business situation, think about business space. You never have 18 seconds with silence at a business meeting. And think about our relationships, right? Particularly if you're in a relationship with whether with masculine energy, a man or somebody with masculine energy, right? There's never that space for us to fill it, right? And so 18 seconds, you walk in, and here's how you want a connection. You creating a safe space for people to tell you how they really feel, right? That's what the 18-second rule is. And I'm looking at you in your eye. If we're in a close relationship, I'm touching a part of your body, because if you're in a relationship with a man, you got to touch us to get us to tune in. Otherwise, we don't know it's important. And we're going to be thinking about a bazillion other things, including trying to fix the thing you're about to tell us, or how to avoid this emotional situation. So look you in your eye. How are you doing today? No. How are you really doing today? Right? Tell me. And then radio silence for 18 seconds. You don't say anything, and you just let them fill the space. And it seems like a blink of an eye, but that is an excruciating long amount of time to just sit there and wait for this person to tell you something that you've never heard before. And I promise you, in those 18 seconds, they're going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. You're going to be like, wow. And now you're going to have a deeper conversation.
Well, I can tell you that works. And you and I haven't talked before today, but I was having a disagreement with my boyfriend, with Brett, and I did just that. And I was like, we are both like, he's talking and I'm like, oh, I got something to say there. And then I was talking and then he was talking, and both of us were just like, maybe we need to take a few hours and just not, I need to go for a walk. And like, he was in San Diego at the time. We're doing this FaceTime. Yeah. And the last thing I wanted was, I know what's going to happen if we hang up. We're both going to spend the next 4 to 5 hours not getting anything done. Right. And so I shut up. He started talking and I just said, okay. And then he talked some more and I said, okay. And I didn't add, and he got there on his own. And then it was, I don't want to fight, and I don't want to fight either. But one of us had to be quiet to give space in order for, like, to see the tenderness and remember we are in a loving relationship. And we have that rule too, Dr. Ish, when we're in person and we have a disagreement, because our love language is physical touch, one of us has to initiate a loving touch on the hand, on the thigh, and the eye contact. And it just, even if you don't, and trust me, I don't want to touch him sometimes when that's happening.
Right.
But I know if the point is to solve the conflict, how am I going to do that? And we often forget when we get emotionally hijacked because we want to get defensive. We want to protect ourselves.
Right.
But you want to solve the conflict. What do you need to do to bring the connection back and remind yourself you are in a loving relationship with this person? They do not want to hurt you. I do not want to hurt them.
Right. I'm here to help you feel good.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure that out. Right.
Right.
Look, we're none of us want to get the blame. Right. I don't want to hear the thing I'm not doing well. Right. Because I'm scared to let you talk, because if I let you talk long enough, eventually you may get to tell me the thing that I'm not doing right. Right. And that scares me because that may sever our connection. And I don't want that, because I need that. Right.
I have learned that too, that men do not like to feel inadequate. And I've had to learn with Brett of, when I'm giving him this feedback, he's then feeling inadequate at my partner. And that's so painful for him. So again, it's the same we learn about feedback. Start with, you are amazing. And I'm so grateful to be in your life and for you to have me in my life. Can we talk about something that's bothering me? And he's given me that feedback. I'm a CEO and a businesswoman, right? I can go into CEO Ann quickly. It's a natural default for me. Sure. Yeah. And he has to say, or even my mom sometimes says, you're being CEO Ann. And I'm like, okay. Okay. I gotta roll it back a little bit. But yeah, and
quit bossing me, Ann. Quit bossing me.
Yeah. And again, I'm like, oh, this is not an employee. This is not that thing. But one of the things I learned in Brene Brown, and we've used this too, when we're feeling a certain way, we start with, the story I'm telling myself is this. Right. That way, I'm not talking in truth or fact. Right. This is my perception of the situation. Right. And then it's both of us to say, that must not feel good. Let me tell you how I see this, or this is what's really going on. But that way you're not accusing or attacking. This is the story I'm telling myself about what just happened. Is this accurate or not?
Exactly. And it touches on the thing you were saying earlier about something you did, right? The reason we blame folks is because blame feels better than guilt, right? I don't want to feel guilty. I got enough going on in my day already, right?
Right.
I got 3 other things I didn't do right today before I got to you. So what I don't want to hear right now is one more thing that I'm doing wrong. And so blame feels much better than guilt. We can just discharge that blame over there. That's you. And then I'll have to feel guilty, but it doesn't help you get any closer to resolving conflict. And so, sometimes it's not about, the thing you're not doing wrong, right? It's about the thing you can just do more right. Hey, I love you to death, love where we are with things. And I think if we could do this, it could be even better.
Yeah.
No more buts, only ands. That's it.
Yeah. Did you say and or ands? Just kidding.
Right? Because when I say but, then your brain is going to cancel out the thing I just said, because now I'm actually about to tell you the truth.
Well, that's the same as the I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Right.
I'm sorry that wasn't like, and it's just like, you ruined it. It's like putting ketchup on prime rib. You ruined it.
Right. What are you doing? What are you doing? Right. Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Before I get into these, again, I could talk to you for hours. Before we get into these questions, I want both of us to tell people, one, What can you do with your partner, and as specific as possible, on a daily basis that you think fosters connection, in addition to the 18-second rule of listening? And if you had to recommend, one relationship book for folks that was so formative for you, what would it be?
What's the one thing you can do with your partner every day that will help foster the connection? I think you just have to be intentional about restating why you're there, right? Because we forget sometimes, right? And the reason we're there is because I like you, I think you're cool, and I think I can make you happy, right? So one of those things is, you have to come up with one thing you can do every single day that you think would make your partner smile. Just one thing. Could be an early morning text, right? It could be a note in their pocket that you just hide and tuck away in there that they're going to find later on that day. It could be something to help make their day run a little bit smoother. It could be something that, if they got a big day coming up, it's going to help decrease that. Just one simple thing. It doesn't, because it's never about the big grand gesture, right? It's not about the car they bought you for your birthday or the trip to, to St. Martin, right? It's about the small, everyday, sustainable things, right? The things that I can count on you to do. So find one thing. Think of what that is, because that means you had to take time and consider it. That means you knew what was going on with me today, and you took time to consider that and think about something that would help put a smile on my face today.
Yeah.
There's got to be that routine. There's got to be that regular. It can't be the sporadic thing. So if you can do that, right, it could be something as simple as leaving your hand on their shoulder for an extra 5 seconds in the morning as you're buzzing through the kitchen, right? And just saying, hey, I'm really appreciating you today.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's also, playfulness is both mine and Brett. It's very important to us. So we play. We know that. Yeah, we know that that's like, he sees me in a different way than anybody else sees me. And like when we're in that state, he sort of is just like, no one else gets to see this girl.
Right.
And like that makes us feel connected.
Feel safe letting the little girl out. And did you know, as humans, we are the only species on the planet that don't schedule play?
No.
We don't.
Wait a minute. You mean polar bears? Like what?
They carve out time to play. Every other species on the planet, otters, polar bears, lions, giraffe, every other species on the planet has built-in playtime into their day. Humans, we don't do it because we're very important and we're very busy and we've got to be significant.
And we're very adult and very mature, and that's irresponsible, and that's, that's for children.
Right? Play doesn't help me get the things that help me feel like who I am is enough, right? Because if you grew up in this country, you had wave after wave after wave, day after day after day of things and people telling you that who you are is enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not handsome. All of these things. I'm too brown. I'm too light. All right. I'm too big. Whatever it is.
Right.
And so we're constantly in this cycle of trying to prove to ourselves and prove to other folks that who we are is enough. And so play doesn't help me do that. So we're not doing it.
Yep, I was gonna say play isn't. We don't view that as productivity. We're not working towards something, to fix something, to build something, to make more money, to whatever. It can be looked at as, who has time for that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to volleyball camp next week. I love playing.
That's awesome.
I'll give you my tip, and it's not mine. We heard it. Brett and I both heard it in a podcast, and we do it every day. We ask, "How's your head and how's your heart?"
Yeah.
And it's just a good check-in of what's happening up here on the stress level. What are you thinking about? What's taking up energy? And like, how are you feeling, in here? Which pretty much asks, like, am I doing a good job of making you feel loved?
Yep.
Like, how are we doing? And so it's a simple thing. We either do it in the morning or the night. And it's remembering to ask the question. And anyway, it's really great. Okay.
It's an honest check-in. Right? It's the honest check-in. I want you to have a space to where you can just tell me how you're doing.
Yeah. And I don't do it when I'm running out the door.
Right.
Exactly. What's the book? You know what? I know you're thinking of that, but I'm going to come back to that at the end because I want to get to these questions with you.
Sure. Let's do it.
And again, if you're listening, I would keep you here for 3 hours if doctors would give me time. Okay, so tell me in your world for you, Dr. Ish, how do you define success? What is going on in your life and world when you feel successful?
For me, being successful, it means being able to create an extraordinary life by sharing your gift, right? There is one thing that you do better than anybody else you know. There's where you born doing it. You didn't have to learn it. It is intuitive to you, right? And the only thing you have ever been able to do is make that gift better. You do it better than anybody else you know, and it comes to you easier than than anything else you do. And when you're doing it, time goes away. You get lost in it. Right?
Yeah.
That's your thing. That's your gift. That's the thing you're good at. So if you can find that and create an extraordinary life based on that, then for me, that's success, right? Because it never feels like your work.
Totally. And it's people focus on the outcome. And I've coached that. I've said that so often. And I give the example of when people are like, oh, I want to like open and own a coffee shop. And I'm like, do you know what that actually means, right? It's doing inventory. Are you a morning person? Because coffee shops open early, right? You've got to deal with, retail customers. Are you good at managing people? What is the nitty gritty of the coffee shop? Or are you just in love with the ambiance of people in your coffee shop having a great time? So it's like, what is the day-to-day of the thing that you want to be doing? And can you enjoy that process, not just the outcome of it?
Exactly. Right. It's the feeling. What's that?
Right.
Can you get that same feeling without owning the coffee shop?
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
If I can get you to the feeling, then we can cut out a whole lot of other rough stuff that we just don't need to do.
And we're all just chasing emotions anyway. It's why we do anything and everything. You're chasing an emotion for how you want to feel. Right. And you got to just figure out if the way that you think is going to get you there is really the way, or it's going to get in your way. So, okay, tell us one formative moment in your life that has shaped you to who you are today.
I just said there's so many.
If we're lucky, there's so many, right?
God, yeah. I think for me, it was my first heartbreak. Sophomore in college, and it was super small. I grew up in a super small town in Yemassee called Yemassee, South Carolina, near Charleston, and Beaufort, like low country, sticks. And everybody knows everybody. This woman and her mom and my mom were like the best of friends. And so I'm home for school on the weekend, and my mom comes in, and she's like, "Hey, got to tell you something." Her name was Nikki. She was like, "Nikki's getting married." I was like, "Oh." Far as I knew, Nikki was my girlfriend.
What?
Right? It's one of the, everybody knows except you. You're the last, you're always in the dark. That whole thing, I was devastated. And I probably didn't get out of bed or eat for like the next 2 weeks. Devastated. Just in every way you could be broken inside. That was it, right? Because this was the woman I was going to marry and do the whole life thing with, right?
Right.
And so go through all that. Fast forward, she ends up getting married to somebody else, moving out of state. 90 days later, she's back. And she comes back to me and she's like, "Hey, listen, I screwed that up bad. I really did, right? And I'm sorry, and I want to see, if there is a chance here." And so the formative moment for me was being able to reclaim a little bit of my personal integrity and look this person in their eye, right? This woman who I still had love for sure, but to say, "Hey, you know what? I appreciate you coming back to me and and apologizing, but I know I deserve better than that," right?
Yeah.
And to walk away. And that was a huge thing for me, just being able to stand up for myself in that moment.
Yeah, and the confidence, because love is a drug. It is, and a lot of times, and I've been in love before a few times, your heart doesn't know if it's good for you or bad for you. It just knows that it feels something it hasn't felt before. So that takes a lot of guts and bravery. Again, the drug is right there in front of you, and to be like, I love me more. And if I accept this, I know that I'm accepting a lot of things in my life that I have higher standards for than this.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Love that. Okay. These questions are kind of random, but I think they're important for people to hear. What do you think causes people to change?
Pain.
I've done a few of these podcasts now. Everybody has said that answer.
It's just what it is, right? Because it's an irritant. It's the thing that you can't stand anymore. The thing that's been making you miserable is now causing you to suffer in not one area, but in multiple areas. And that's what moves people to change, right? When things are going great, we just party. It's like, great, it's awesome. We're not learning anything. We're just riding the momentum. But the pain causes us to pause. And
So,
in that pause, you start to think about what went wrong and how I don't want to feel this again. And then our lizard brain kicks in. Your lizard brain is like, hey, I'm just here to protect you, and this is what we need to do to not allow that to happen. So it just really makes us think.
so do you think we should go around waiting for pain to happen to us, or you think we should self-inflict it at times?
I think we should not numb it when it comes our way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as Americans, we are extraordinary at our numbing medications, right? Whether it's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, scrolling, video games, food, whatever the thing we're numbing up with today, right? Am I over exercising? Am I using food to numb it up? Am I using success and work to numb it up? Whatever those things are, those are some of those things can be healthy, and then we can graduate to some of the things that aren't healthy, right? Am I going to pop a pill today? I'm going to use some drugs today. What? Because I just don't want to feel it, right? I just don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it. And so the thing that you need to do is not numb it up, right? The pain is always coming, but we try to distract ourselves from it until we're able to deal with it. So no, just invite it in. Pain's going to knock on your door. Open the door. Invite it in. I got a couch right here. Come down, have a coffee, right? And we can chat for a bit. And then your ass has to go because you can't spend the night. But I'm not going to avoid you, right? And so that's the thing we've got to get better at doing. Just accepting and knowing that it's okay. And it doesn't mean I'm not doing life right. Everybody has pain. If you're doing it, that's going to happen.
Yeah, there's another great quote. I need to write down who says these things, but everybody experiences pain. And when I got my heart broken, I was like, oh my God, I don't wish this on anybody. And that when I was on the other side of it, I was like, I wish heartbreak on everybody. It is so important, a lesson. And when people are in it, it's painful to watch. I have a friend going through it right now. And I'm just like, I know what you're feeling. Yeah. You're going to grow so much. And this is the thing too. If you ask everybody, do you want to grow? Everybody says, yeah. No, they don't. Do you know how painful the growing process is? It's the shedding of the emotional skin. And when people are in it, they're like, how do I turn this off? And it's like, this is what you wished for. This is what you say that you wanted. And you've got to figure out exactly what you just said. Sit in it. Let it teach you, because pain multiplied by resistance is where the suffering starts.
The suffering starts, right?
Yeah. And that's the quote I was referencing. And not everybody has to suffer. You will feel pain. And if you can figure out a healthy way to deal, accept, feel, and grow from it, you don't have to suffer.
Right. Pain is like a panic attack, right? The thing that makes those things so horrible, and I have anxiety. Things that make those so horrible is you think you're going to die. You think it's going to kill you. Right. That's the leap you're making. Those are all the wrong dots you're connecting. Oh, this is so painful. If this continues, I may not be okay. And if I'm not okay, I might die. And what you find by sitting with the pain, right? By just pressing pause and just seeing how, okay, Tim, I'm looking at it. I'm checking it out. What you find is after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, a week, a month, I'm still breathing. It didn't kill me. And so now I have an opportunity to figure out how to move out of it. But we're so uncomfortable, especially here in the West. We're so uncomfortable just pressing pause and sitting when we want to immediately move to the fix. And sometimes the fix is just acknowledging what the thing that happened did to you.
Well, and the productivity world we lived in, as we talked about, and the immediate gratification that is everywhere. When I was going through my heartbreak, I'm like, how do I fix this the fastest? Because that's what I do. I do things faster than anybody else. And so I almost made it a competitive thing. And I'm like, this is not one of those things that I can do that with. This is going to take as long as it takes. And I need to do all the healthy things that I can. But Father Time, there's no way for me to negotiate with him. It's gonna take what it takes.
Heart runs on its own time clock.
Yeah. Okay, my last question here, because I kind of already asked you about, because we stuck to relationship stuff. So what, Dr. Ish, are the non-negotiables in your life that you think contributed to your success and happiness?
I think for me, so I grew up in a very unusual family. 5 sisters, 1 brother. Mom and dad were together for like 56 years. And if anybody ever dropped into our house, they just thought we were nuts, because at any point in time, we were putting on our own musical production. We were recreating the stuff of using, right? We were each other's best friends, right? And I took that with me into the world. So my non-negotiables are kindness. You gotta be kind, right? Mm-hmm. You can't talk to me well. If you can't treat me well, then you don't deserve to be in my life. You have to be kind. You have to be considerate, right? And that's something I'm going to notice over time, right? One of my tricks there is watching how people treat others who aren't me, right?
Yep.
Right. And particularly, how do you treat the wait staff at the restaurant?
Totally.
How do you treat the person who's turning down the beds in the hotel? How do you treat those folks who you don't believe you need to treat well? That tells me a lot about you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was interviewing somebody one day, this was years ago, and I actually happened to see this individual on the street before whatever.
Yeah.
And this person was so rude to somebody. And I was like, there's no reason for you to come to this interview.
Right.
I was just like, this is not, you're going to come and you're going to show up and you're going to give me this person.
Right.
But you just showed me everything I needed to know.
Can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah, exactly. Especially for folks like you, right? Because folks meet you and they're like, wait, that's the Ann? Okay. I got to treat her well, right? Yeah. So you're very rarely going to get that. So you got to be very intentional about finding those moments, right? So for me, kindness, consideration, and truth, right? I don't need the BS, right?
Yeah.
It's like a psychiatrist. I am trained to know when you're not telling the truth. And when that happens, I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? There's nothing you're going to tell me that's going to scare me away, right? Right? Just trust me enough to share your truth. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. Love all of that. So, okay, we have a couple minutes left. I'm going to ask, what is the book that a relationship book? You might even have a book that I don't know about yet. There you go. Looking around.
Oh my God. I do have a book. Actually, it's funny you said that. It's funny how life works. This happens to be sitting there on my desk, but the book that changed my life, my relationship life, is this. Codependent No More by Melanie Beadle, right? So codependent people like myself. I was the card-carrying member, captain, CEO, COO of the Codependency Club, which means my job was to be people pleaser, to be the fixer, right? Whatever you had going on, I was going to fix it. And if I could fix it well enough, fast enough, and good enough, and then maybe I would be enough for you to love me.
Yeah.
Right? And no matter how bad it got, no matter how bad you treated me, no matter how rough it was, the codependency mantra is, I can take it. No matter how bad it gets, I can take it. And it serves a lot of different purposes, right? Not the connection I wanted, but it was the one that was available, so I took it, right? And it helped me in my place of not feeling like who I am was enough, right? Growing up poor Black in South Carolina, oh my God, that's a whole lot of not being enough. So if I could stay in the mode of doing and proving myself to you, it helped me improve maybe myself to me. So maybe I could start to believing that who I was enough. But it's a lot. You know what I mean? It's a lot. And the codependent person usually attracts narcissists, right? We attract those folks who are like those borderline personalities, those big, bold personalities. We attract takers, right?
Yeah.
And we give. And then we hope that if we just give enough, then they'll notice and then they'll pick me and then finally tell me how special I am. But that day never comes. So that book there, I had so many oh shit moments. It was just like, yeah.
Well, I think we're talking for a reason, because that's one that I just talked about that on my Instagram. I still struggle with that. I associate achievement with love,
right,
heavily, and it's just like, am I ever going to feel like I'm enough? And I've struggled with my new relationship with money. I've created a lot of wealth for myself, and do people expect me to give this? And if I just take care of everything financially, will they love me more? And wait a minute, do they love me for this? So yeah, that's been a struggle for me too. And the other area that's been a struggle for me that I've dove into, and this is for all of the badass, powerful women out there. I read the book Intimate Communion. Have you heard of this book?
I haven't heard of this. What is this?
Okay, so it's I'm just looking at the author, David Data, and
I know Data. Yeah. I had those stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's about, again, how we live in our masculine and feminine energy. And what I'm going to say was super fascinating because it blew my mind too. We have told society that a 50-50 relationship is what you should strive for. But all that does is neutralize the polarity in the relationship. And that happened in my last relationship. And I began to become more masculine and dominant. And therefore, he stepped into his feminine side. But our true selves, he is attracted to a very feminine woman. And I am attracted to a masculine energy male. And all that, we just polarized it. And we're like, there's nothing here. There's nothing here anymore. So I did a lot of reading on how to step into my femininity, how I create that space for a man to step into his masculine. And Brett was ironically reading The Way of the Superior Man, which is the same author, when we met. So we were both very in tune with that subject, and we talk about it in our relationship and like, how are we doing here? So for, again, anybody that, again, successful female, makes good amount of money, can take care of herself, and you find you have to be masculine in the workforce to be successful and get what you want, and that's overflowing potentially in an adverse way in your relationship, this book is what was really helpful for me.
And tease out the one part. Don't gloss over the other part. You've got to be intentional about creating that space for each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. That's you've got to stop down and press pause and do that very intentionally. And then it comes to fruition.
Yeah. This was such a joy. I am so appreciative of you taking the time, and people are going to learn so much from this. I know it's going to be a favorite on this podcast, because again, we're all interested in how to have a healthy, loving relationship. We all want it. We never get taught much on how to do it. We're dealt with the family cards, the parental cards that we see, and that becomes either the example we emulate or that we don't want. And so these conversations are so important. So thank you for the work that you do. And where can folks learn about you, Dr. Ish, learn more about, tell us.
You got it. Yep. I'm all over socials. This is the name, Dr. Ish Major, DrIshdrIshMajor, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on the website, drishmajor.com. And I'm everywhere. I'm easy to find. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. And we'll, we need to have dinner at some point. I would love that.
Well, absolutely. 100%. Yes.
All right. You take care. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.